Day number 2 of getting back into the gym. My legs are absolutely fried from yesterday. Actually, it wasn't even yesterday, it was Wednesday. But my legs are still roasted so bad. And today is a little bit easier on the legs, but it's still not going to be fun. I'm getting here a little early to try to help loosen them up by riding the bike for a little bit. So I think I just need to get them moving. It hurts so bad. It's making me walk funny because I can't bend my knees with weight on it. My quads hurt so bad. It was indeed dumpster fire. I don't know if that's stuck enough. I don't have a tripod, so there's a locking that thing in my there's a little cubby for my radio that pops up, and I can just jam it in there. But anyway, it was my quads, like I said before the workout, my quads were on fire. And it didn't really get any better, to be honest, but we did push presses, deadlifts, and then we're supposed to do box squats, but I genuinely cannot jump. Like my calf, where I strained my Achilles, does not work. Doesn't work at all. So I can't jump. I can't even even the movement for because for the push press, you got to clean it. If we're doing deadlifts, if we were just doing push press, I could rack it. But if we're doing push press and cleans, I got to get it off, or deadlifts and push press, then I have to clean it from the ground, the weight from the ground, to get it into a push press position. And even for that little, it was a lightweight, it was only 115, even for that little bump up in the clean, my calf doesn't even work for that. So I had to completely muscle clean 115 and get it up to my shoulders, which was rough. But all in all, and then I couldn't do box squats, obviously, so I just did box jumps. I can't talk, but I just did air squats instead, and it was 5 push press, 10 deadlifts, and then 15 box jumps, but I did 20 air squats instead. And it was just a 10-minute workout, AMRAP. It wasn't bad, but my quads just don't feel good. I'm on my way to get food now for dinner, and we're gonna finish up Yellowstone tonight, I think. Well, no. I think we have 4 episodes left. But anybody who has watched Yellowstone, leave your thoughts in the comments of how you thought, or what you thought of the show. We're about to finish. I'd like to see what people think of it. I think it's a great show, but I just want to know what people think. I grew up on a farm with horses. I had cows a couple times, but I know about the cowboy, I don't know. I wasn't a cowboy growing up, and we didn't live on a cowboy ranch or anything, but I did like cowboy stuff when I was younger. And I think personally, I would make a good cowboy still, but it's a rough life, and I don't really want to have to live a cowboy life. It's obviously portrayed in a certain way in the show, but I think honestly, if there's anybody still doing that kind of cowboying, it's probably relatively close to what it's like. Pretty lonely. Obviously it's the extreme of some crazy fights and obviously there's a lot of killing. Does that happen in real life? I can't say for sure, but probably not nearly as much as in the show. So what are people's thoughts? For my driving thought of the day, I've been thinking a lot recently about the whole concept of, some people throughout your day, throughout life, you just get really confused on why they do the things that they do. Or how many times in life do you just see something in the news and you're like, why did that person do that? And why do people act like that? Why this, why that? But in terms of people's behaviors, so much of it is so confusing as compared to what we experience in our daily lives, like how we act and how we react to things and what our behavior is. There's so many people. I mean, there's 8 billion people in the world. There's so many people who have different behaviors and different personalities and everything like that. And sometimes it's a wonder why people do the things that they do. But I was listening to a podcast recently, and I don't remember where the quote came from, but there's in the podcast they were talking about how all behavior is explained with enough information. And it's been kind of like on my mind a lot recently because it's something that I had thought about for a long time, how like, you know, everybody has their own 24 hours of every day that they live, and they experience different things. Like it's crazy to think about how in my 24 hours, if I interact with somebody who I didn't interact with like at all through the day, like say my wife, I know about what her 24 hours of her day is like. Or if I go to the gym and see people that I know that like, I know what their, like that 2 hours, or we talk about like what their day was like, or, you know, say how you're doing today, whatever. They tell me parts of their day and stuff like that. Anyway, like there's just varying levels of how much you know about what happened in somebody's day. And when like it's turned into this, a cop just went past and I was just looking, making sure brake lights weren't on. I'm not speeding. It's always scary. Anyway, when you interact with somebody and you think about how their last 24 hours of their life was completely different than yours. Like you have zero idea of what happened in their last 24 hours of their life. And on top of that, you think about that, and then you compound it with the fact that you don't know what however old they are, like you don't know anything about the last week, last year, last 10 years of their life. And it's like how much different that time expands into such a large number of experiences that you don't know about them. And if you knew enough of that information, you know, in theory, it would make sense as to why they're acting the way that they're acting. You know, all behavior is explained with enough information. And it gives me the perspective to like, obviously if somebody's doing something terrible or something wrong and you need to defend yourself, or like you need to stand your ground, or you need to like avoid a person because of the way they're acting, you know, that is what it is. But a lot of times, like, it gives me the perspective to think, like, slow down and not judge somebody too harshly for how they're acting, as long as it's not obnoxious. And even some of that, you're like, okay, I get why you're being the way that you're being, and I'm not going to judge you too much for it because I understand X, Y, and Z has happened to you. And if it had happened to me, I might be reacting the same way. You know, I have enough information to understand why you are the way that you are. It doesn't make it okay to act that way, but like, I get it. And it's such a wild concept to like grasp and understand, and it gives you a different perspective on how to view people.